It's important to understand that science is not the disbelief in God or religion as a whole. It is a methodology by which we use to investigate phenomena and attempt to understand and provide answers to our questions about the universe. So many people say that they believe in science. Well, this is only a halfway correct statement. They believe in what science has proven to be correct or incorrect, but often have little to no opinion on the things that science cannot directly answer for us. It may also be worth mentioning that science consistently changes its mind over time, going from one core belief to the complete opposite. For example, Galileo and the common belief surrounding our solar system during the 16th and 17th centuries. For those of you who may not know, Galileo proposed that the planets may not actually revolve around Earth like many people believed at the time, but rather revolved around the sun. He was highly ridiculed and persecuted for this belief. So with all of that being said, I'm Luke Caverns, and I hope you'll join me as we go back 13 billion years into our ancient origins. So science has the potential to provide an answer to our how. How did we get here? By what process did we arrive at this point in time? Typically, modern scientific findings are pretty concrete, which leads to a considerably high credibility, whereas religion can leave a lot to be inferred. Traditional scientific conclusions are typically based on what is called physical or scientific evidence. But religion has the potential to answer our why. Why are we here? Do we have a purpose in life? If so, what is it? This is also why religion is so attractive to so many people. As technology and shareable media grow, we are seeing an influx of people coming to a self-realization that the likelihood of their existence is so slim that it is almost unfeasible in their minds for their existence to not be intentional. This kind of reasoning is called philosophical evidence. It cannot always be proven physically, but through deductive reasoning one can ideally come close to being certain of the propensity of any given event in question to have taken place. Now, let's go back before the first day of creation or the Big Bang, whichever you prefer. What existed before then? Well, according to most religious authorities, there was nothing in our current reality before the time of creation. Moreover, we see a common belief that only God and his angels existed before the time of creation. Also, I apologize for speaking in monotheistic terms. Seeing as Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are the most common religions on earth today, it's easier and makes more sense to speak in monotheistic terms rather than polytheistic terms. Now, those who subscribe to the current belief system of the scientific community tend to only go as far as saying in the beginning there was essentially nothing and then two atoms collided. This phrase has become somewhat laughable over the last several decades and has driven many scientists to take a step back and restate that the Big Bang was in fact not the origin of creation, but rather just a significant point in time around 13 billion years ago. Although this stance is undoubtedly less likely to be critiqued so harshly by scientific skeptics, it still unfortunately does not answer the question of what happened before, which for some is okay. Many agnostics and atheists believe that science does not need to answer the origin of creation. Many monotheistics believe that, logically, creation would not exist without an uncreated creator. Far too often we see that religious people are quick to dismiss scientific findings, theory, and evidence that may be contradictory to the common interpretation of their religious beliefs. Equally, we see that people who believe in science have no tolerance whatsoever for metaphysical discussion, which is understandable, but this hesitance for either side to investigate the other has undoubtedly prevented so much discovery of who we are as a species. In fact, this thought is actually supported by Nikola Tesla, who famously stated, "Once the scientific community begins to study non-physical or metaphysical phenomena, it will make more progress in a single decade than all of the previous centuries of existence." Furthermore, the father of quantum physics, Werner Heisenberg, stated that the first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. A simple and possibly relatable example of this is the electron transport chain and cellular respiration. For those of you that have taken Biology 1, you may be familiar with these processes, and on the surface, it may be easy to digest how electrons move and how energy is created in a cell. Without diving into it, it's easy to understand how these processes occur. The surface level understanding of science is the first sip. And often, this is as far as scientifically inclined people dive into any given topic. They see the somewhat simple physical explanation for a problem and infer that a god must not be necessary. It is now easy to see how this way of thinking can easily produce an atheist. But as many scientists dive even deeper, they begin to move from asking how to asking why. The why, although not unexplainable, is never as easily explained. And when men make a career of asking these questions, they realize that unknown science is on a 10 to 100 times scale, meaning that for every one question we answer, we now have 10 to 100 new questions. And after decades of this continuous cycle, some scientists eventually concede that the universe must in some sort have a consciousness. This is the bottom of the glass. In conclusion, we can only use philosophical evidence to prove the existence of God, the result of deductive and careful deliberation over the likelihood of the existence of a God is the only evidence we have available for the existence of a God. To many people, this philosophical evidence is adequate enough. To many other people, it certainly is not. A question I tend to ask people when this conversation comes up is, if I gave you every piece of a human body and the blood to go in it, as well as all of the equipment necessary to build a human being, at what point upon adding each of these pieces, the heart, the brain, the lungs, the limbs, at what point would that human being actually come to life, complete with memory, deductive reasoning, love, empathy, and humor? Is that possible? Or are living beings born with a metaphysical spirit that pilots the physical body? All in all, physical scientific evidence cannot currently prove the existence of a God. However, through careful and deductive reasoning, you may be able to conclude that the existence of a God is more likely than the unintentional existence of humanity, as well as the chances of you being born human, let alone you being the one of billions of sperm cells that actually fertilized your mother's womb. Do you believe that your existence is truly coincidental, or do you feel that it's more likely by design? These are very hard questions that I think are worth thinking about. I strongly encourage you to dive deeper into natural science, realize how infinitely complex it is, and deduce for yourself if you believe a creator is behind all of this. In the end, there can only be one of two options. Either the universe never began, or something that was uncreated created it. So what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And on the next episode, I'll be discussing whether or not scientific theory of the universe and Earth's creation actually go against religion. Do they really conflict, or can they work congruently alongside each other? Well, anyways, I'm Luke Caverns. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll find out next time on Ancient Origins.